I live in Philadelphia, so occasionally I'll go to the bar or something and see some Josh Shapiro ads. He's the guy running against Mastriano, and they're pretty good ads as far as like making you really frightened about Mastriano, because if they win, they're going to try to abolish democracy in both of those states. They're going to rig the system like they have rigged, Wisconsin, where like the legislature, like legislative elections are basically fraudulent, and the Democrats can't win, unless they get 70-point margin or something. And so, you have the campaign question, and then just like the organic flow of terrible abortion stories, which I think are just like it's going to be a daily occurrence. It's some kind of horrifying. I don't think I've seen one yet where somebody died, but it's going to happen for sure. And you can just say, Alito killed that person, and it's just open and shut. That's what happened.
You mentioned you were talking a bit about the election denial of Mastriano's involvement in Jan 6, and I was just reminded of how I guess Kari Lake officially won the Republican primary announced yesterday to be the Republican running in the gubernatorial election in Arizona. And there are some interesting parallels, I think, with Arizona and Pennsylvania. They're both purplish states, but maybe leaning a little bit more blue, and they both have gubernatorial candidates who are vehement Trump supporters, election deniers, and the stakes for those two races could not be higher because of the ramifications of how they could rig elections going forward in those states. What's been your take on some of the rise of these candidates to being the actual Republican nominees in like not deep red states, but states where Democrats could potentially win going forward?
Yeah. I mean, Mastriano would be overseeing the election infrastructure. And you just like, I think it's hard to honestly to be as like freaked out about it as we should be. Because you see, it's the springboard for creating national Jim Crow, where you have fraudulent elections, and it's the whole electoral system is just a way of like ratifying a one-party dictatorship, basically. And the other thing about these people is that not only are they like nuts, they are also just incredibly hateful and full of rage. Like Mastriano has been getting a lot of bad press over his association with this guy, Andrew, what's his name? The head who runs the site Gab.
He's anti-Semitic, white supremacist ties.
He's a Nazi.
Yeah.
He's a Nazi. And like he's clearly very close friend. Mastriano briefly hired him as a consultant, and he only sort of cut ties because of, the bad press he was getting, but it clearly hasn't, like changed his beliefs. It's just a tactical retreat. And what these people would do with permanent national power is really quite terrifying to contemplate. I don't think any kind like mass violence should be ruled out at all. That was the core of the Jim Crow system, was a constant threat of violence against, not only like black people, but any white people who stepped out of line. A number of civil rights workers and activists who were killed during the civil rights movement were white. People who come down from New York City and stuff, or Southern folks who challenge the hegemony of the system. People get killed, and I don't think that type of sort of quasi-fascist, kind of terror state should be ruled out as a possibility. And it's worth, it's kind of unfortunate that Shapiro is the guy. He didn't even have an opponent in the primary, but he's got to win. He's got to win. God help us all if he doesn't.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, hey, look, our institutions are strong, so they'll save us if these kinds
The
of people get into power, right? The arc of history, it's just you don't got to do anything. It just bends towards everyone being fair and everything being just, right?
Yeah. It's funny that people who say that a lot, like Obama, are the people who don't do the things that are necessary to make it happen.
Yeah.
He had an almost limitless ability to deal with the Great Recession and didn't. He just like did what Goldman Sachs CEO Hank Paulson told him to do, and it was now we are where we are, but it's never too late to pull up rather, and fix things, or at least it isn't yet. And so it's kind of who knows where Republicans will go after this if they do lose. But hopefully if they constantly get swatted down by the electorate for being fascists, then maybe they'll moderate a little bit. Who knows? But that's a question for down the road.
I mean, and it's also an interesting wrinkle is when Trump announces. Is it going to be before the midterms? Is it going to be right after the midterms? Like, he's already giving semi-campaign speeches, and I wonder how that has an effect. I would imagine that it would be a gift to Democrats if he announces before the midterms, but like, I don't know anything. I mean, who's to say? It could also energize Republicans as well.
He's another mercurial guy. If I had to guess, I would say that it will happen immediately if he gets indicted for, treason against democracy. It'll be right after that. But otherwise, he certainly doesn't care if it's going to benefit the party or not, because if he was going to do that, then he wouldn't run at all. But that is like, though, the saving grace of it all, right? I mean, hopefully he's he's like Gollum looking for the ring, and he gets it finally as he falls into the pits of Mordor. I'm sorry to be this dorky on a casual Friday, but like that's my hope for all this. The other thing about Trump, though, is that he's very he doesn't sound like he did in 2016. I remember going through yesterday, I found an old tweet thread of mine that was like, when Trump starts sounding like Bernie, I get a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. This was like March 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I later talked myself out of it, but I probably shouldn't have. He doesn't, back then it was like, build a wall. We're going to give everyone a good paying manufacturing job. DC is corrupt. Very simple, make America great again. Now it's like
drain the swamp. Everyone's corrupt but me. Right.
Like slogans we all remember. He's a really good propagandist, but when you listen to him now, it's all backwards looking grievance. He's gonna overturn the 2020 election. He's really mad at all the Republicans who betrayed him, at Mike Pence, and he doesn't really have a sort of positive outlook. Like his 2016 campaign, for all its like bitterness and racism, was kind of optimistic. It was like we're gonna fix the problems such as they are. And now it's like, I'm going to take revenge on my enemies. It's not, it's like, I wouldn't, rule anything out. He's still a formidable, candidate. He still has a death grip on a huge number of people. But I think that that's just not a great, sort of vibe, for lack of a better word.
And he's really just like an insult comic, right? Like, what did he say about Larry Hogan? It's just, he was going to run for president, but he looked at the mirror and he said, no thanks, like, I'm good, or something like that. I mean, yes, he's hilarious when he does that kind of stuff. And I do think he still got it to the degree of riling up a crowd. And he can get all those MAGA folks out to the polls in droves. But in a national election, it's just everything was stolen from me, right?
Yeah.
So unfair to me.
That's
I don't
the
know.
Hillary Clinton campaign.
Oh, yeah. Honestly.
I'm with her. I deserve it. It's mine. And
it's my time now.
Ready for Trump.
I'm with Trump. I'm with Trump. Man, that is honestly It's all that was such a good point. That's such a good point. Really, making it about himself. It's just I don't know how that translates.
Yeah. But maybe he'll get his mojo back. I don't know. Or since he got COVID, he's kind of low energy. Like maybe he's got some chronic fatigue or something.
He did not get the best COVID.